Greetings. Today we'll be answering the age-old question of what is economics? So the first thing you need to know about economics is the concept of scarcity. Scarcity is what they call the fundamental economic problem. And pretty much scarcity comes up whenever there are not enough resources or not enough stuff to give to every person who wants that stuff, right? And for humans, pretty much, when you think about it, everything is scarce, okay? If you have to pay for it, if you can't just walk out and get it, then it's scarce, okay? Pretty much the only thing I can think of that's not scarce is air. And there's a question as to whether or not fresh, clean air might be scarce sometime in the future. But as you can see from this graphic, you've got unlimited wants coming from humans, from a society, and then limited resources, which means that some choices have to be made. Who are we going to produce for? What are we going to produce? And how are we going to produce it? So each society, because of the fact that they don't have enough resources to produce all the stuff they want, they have to make some fundamental choices. And that fundamental choice, or the science of how humans make that fundamental choice, is the study of economics. So that's what economics is. Economics is the study of the choices that people make, the science of how people make decisions when they don't have enough resources. Or the Yancey Def, how people get what they want when there's not enough to go around. A little more on economics. Two major groups of economics, and we'll be looking a little bit at both of them. Microeconomics, micro meaning small or tiny. So looking at economics on a small scale, the economics of one business or one household, something like that. And then macroeconomics, or economics on a big scale, which is the economics of countries or even of the world, large-scale economics. And usually you're looking at many hundreds or thousands or more people and how they connect. And also when you're looking at how the government influences economics, usually that falls into macroeconomics. So back to these three basic questions that you definitely need to know. Each society has to look at its needs and the resources that it has, and it has to answer these three questions. What are we going to produce? Are we going to produce food? Are we going to produce weapons? If we're hunters and gatherers, are we going to spend our time hunting, or are we going to spend our time gathering? Okay, and that goes back to how should we produce it? Based on our resources, would it be better for us to make bows to hunt food, or would it be better for us to make guns to hunt food? Should we create robots or a factory setup to create something, or should we create it by hand? And that's all going to depend on resources. And then finally, for whom should we produce? We have to fulfill the needs of our population, but then we also want to produce for other available markets so that we're able to get things that we can't produce ourselves. There's also the question of, should we produce for the everyman, something that everyone needs and everyone maybe can afford? Or maybe we want to produce for the very wealthy and some higher end products. So those are the three basic questions that any society has to answer. And it's the study of how they answer the questions that's what falls into economics. Now, the next thing you need to know are the factors of production. And there's 4 factors of production in your textbook, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a 5th one that they've started to add in lately. So here you can see the 4 factors of production: land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurs. Okay? Now, land is limited natural resources. So it's mountains, and it's iron, and it's plants, and it's cows, and it's the climate. Now what's important here is that land is only land until it's been worked on by human hands. Okay? So for instance, trees would be considered land. But the point at which they're cut down and turned into lumber, it's no longer land, it's now capital. Okay? And capital is the means by which something is produced. It can be money, which is called financial capital, or it can be tools, equipment, machinery, factories, everything that you use to produce something else. Labor is human workers, okay? So all the workers who apply their efforts, abilities, and skills. This also means, to some degree, for a lot of jobs, they have some knowledge. So that knowledge of your labor force is also very, very important for the labor production. Entrepreneurs, risk takers, they're the ones who take land, labor, and capital and turn it into new products. And this is really where the United States excels, because we are a country of entrepreneurs. We have the most patents and most copyrights of any other country. And, you know, people are always looking at, hey, you know what we could use, or you know what would be better than that? And that really is what really brings out new products and what really supports the economy of a country. And that's why the United States does so well. As a country, we like to support those risk takers who combine the other three factors. And then finally, just another term you need to know is production. And the production is that process of creating goods and services, the result of entrepreneurs taking land, capital, and labor and turning it into something. My pat example is always the Snuggie. You got a blanket, but you don't got a blanket with sleeves. Somebody came up with that. They thought about it, and then they went out and got land, labor, and capital and turned it into something new. It's the American way. The final one that your textbook doesn't mention is technology. And technology has lately become another one of the factors of production, because technology is such a game changer. It has such a great impact on the way we produce things. When you throw technology into the mix, you can make new things or make things in new ways that you never thought was possible. So just always kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that you've got technology in there, and when you throw those in, new stuff happens. Now, Tinsstoffel. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Say that 3 times fast. Tinsstoffel is the concept that no matter what, anything that you get, it's not actually for free, because somebody's paying for it. Maybe it's not you, but usually it probably is you, and you just don't realize it. So, for example, if you go to Rack Room and they're doing one of those buy one, get one half off, or buy one, get one free deals. So you're like, oh, awesome, you know, I get a free pair of shoes. Well, do you really get a free pair of shoes? No. Because the reality of the situation is the Rack Room going to lose money to give you a free pair of shoes? No, it's not. It's going to build in the cost of that second pair of shoes into the cost of the first pair that you're buying. So really, it's just spreading it out a little bit, but they're still getting their money. Another really good example that's happened lately is the Kroger points that come with the gas, right? So you spend $100 at Kroger's and you go across the street to the gas station that's participating and you get 10 cents off your gas. Well, okay, that sounds like a really good deal, right? Except that, do you think that Kroger's and that gas station are just losing money? No, they have a deal set up so that they're able to make money off of what you're doing. So it's a good deal, because they know that if you go buy the stuff at Kroger's, you're going to go to a certain gas station, and that's where you're going to spend your money. So it's a good deal for the gas stations. And then it's also free advertising. So really, when it comes down to it, Kroger's has to increase the price of their goods to pay for the advertising and that kind of stuff. So you're still paying for the gas, you're just paying for it in your groceries. So you should always keep that in mind and always kind of go, Tinsstoffel, what's really going on here? Who's really paying it, and is it really me? Now, last thing, the scope of economics. What does economics do, the study of economics? The first thing they do is they describe economic activity. So they give us a lot of rates and numbers, like the GDP, the gross domestic product, or something that's been in the news a lot, the unemployment rate. So they take a lot of information and they give us these rates and these numbers that kind of tell us how the economy is doing. Then they analyze the why and how of economic activity. So they look at why inflation happens during certain times, why interest rates go up or down, why prices go up and down, or how an increase in taxes might impact Americans' spending or savings. They then explain that information. So, okay, it's great. We've got all this information, but what are we going to do with it? Economists communicate that information to society. And you'd be surprised, but the government employs economists, major corporations employ economists. So really, one of the things that they do is they explain this very complex system in kind of simple ways so that people can make decisions based on it. And then they predict, using information that's happened before, they predict potential future activity. So they say, hey, if you do this, or if this hurricane hits here, or if, this big stock market issue comes up, then we know that there's a possibility that X could happen because we've seen it happen before. So kind of very important things that economists do. You don't hear a lot about them, but really they're kind of the behind the scenes people who are really kind of looking at everything, gauging everything in the economy, and telling the government and people what to do with it. Okay, that's the end of what is economics.